what the heck was that? What's good, guys? It's Alissa back with another video, and in this video I am going to be doing a quick recap / review, giving my thoughts on Dear White People season 3. Now, I do want to say that I have been a huge fan of this show for a really long time. Well, I got into the show when season 2 started, and I would just kind of watch the show, and it wasn't like any other show that I had seen, so I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And season 1 was very strong. Season 2 was I wouldn't say even stronger, but they were pretty much the same, but that's not a bad thing to me because they stayed true to what the show was about, and it wasn't really lacking on any parts, and I liked how they introduced new things into the second season. But we're not talking about the first season right now or the second season. We're talking about the third season. Now, I'm going to start this video out by giving the cons of this season and the pros of this season, because I don't want to spend my time on giving too much negative stuff, because there were strong points in this season, but there also were a lot of not so strong points in this season. I just want to start out by saying this season overall, plot wise, it was really hard to follow. Like, I can't even tell you what what the overall synopsis of the season was, like, I don't even know what to say about it. But the plot, it was really hard to follow. It didn't really catch my attention fast enough, but I did keep going because, of course, I'm not going to judge a season off of the first episode. Sometimes first episodes can lack, but really the first episode should be what grabs the viewer's attention, and it did not do that at all. So anyone that watched it, I'm sure that they can vouch that they were like iffy about this season from the first episode, but they kept going. I myself kept going, but the writing, it just relied way too much on punchlines. Like, the dialogue was really hard to follow, and me, when I watch stuff, I'm really strong on like dialogue and character conversations, and this season really didn't have too strong of like dialogue, and most of what everybody was saying was like, to me it felt like people were saying like tweets, like punchline tweets back and forth to each other. So it was like, what the heck is everyone talking about? And like, most of the references that they made in the show is like, if you don't know what they're talking about, like, the lines aren't going to resonate with you. So that was one thing that bothered me, because I got lost a lot in the things that they were saying, because they were kind of like trying to throw shade and like do like these punchline type jokes, and it was like not landing at all with me, because I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. Also, like in the first season and the second season, how they had the parody of the Iyanla Vanzant show, the parody of like Love and Hip Hop and stuff like that, the parody of Scandal, those were good. However, this Handmaid's Tale thing, I knew that it was Handmaid's Tale because I do have a Hulu subscription and I see the show on like my recommended. However, I do not watch the show. So when they kept going on and on and on about the little parody of the Handmaid's Tale, it was like, like, I don't understand the jokes that they're trying to make, for one, and the mocking of it, because I don't watch the show. And I heard that it's a pretty big show. People like it, but to me, it just wasn't funny. Like, I didn't like it. Also, I think it was called Mr. Higgins thing, that wasn't funny. It was just weird. Like, it was just, and they would go on, like, they would show those parodies, like, when they're all sitting in the lounge and everyone's in there, and that would be it. But it was like sparse in between episodes. Like, we did not see that every single episode, but I feel like it was like a lot for each episode. But anyway, I'm gonna move on from that. It just wasn't funny, and it wasn't resonating with me. So I'm gonna touch on each character, and some characters are not gonna make it to my pros list, and some characters are not gonna make it to my cons list. However, there are pros and cons to each character in each episode. Now, I'm going to start off with the main character, Sam White. She's the main character, and she's always very vocal about situations that are going on socially, and that's basically what the show is about, her radio show, Dear White People. But she did end season 2 saying that she wasn't going to do the show anymore. Now, in season 3, she stayed true to her word, and now Joelle is the person doing the show. But, I feel like they could have touched on Sam's character a little more and why she's not doing Dear White People and what she's doing after Dear White People. Like, the show this season mostly focused on her. They're juniors now in college and she's working on this video. And she basically couldn't find her way, which is how we got into the Mr. Higgins stuff. She couldn't find her way and her videos were not coming together. She met her idol. She was disappointed, which was not a surprise. But I do know that she was shaken a bit by the Ricky Carter situation that happened in season 2, so that's why she decided not to do the show. But I feel like they could have touched on that even more. Also, I feel like they could have touched on the order much, much, much more in this season. They ended season 2 basically finding the guy, the narrator, and, you know, like, they didn't touch on that hardly at all in season 3. To me, it felt like this season was being written as it went on, because a lot of the plots and the storylines did not, like, there was no continuation, if that's the word, but like the flow of the season was not how the previous seasons were, where it was like, okay, each character has their own storylines, but they all kind of go into each other and the flow is really nice and really easy and you can follow along. This season felt really choppy, and the order they didn't touch on hardly at all. Like, why was the narrator and what's that guy's name? Anyway, I'll just put his name at the bottom because I cannot remember his name for anything. But why was the narrator and this guy, the tech guy, I'm gonna call him that, you know, like, he had on the order ring and they were talking, but in the end of the season you see that, like, the narrator is really not for the order and he's saying that it's fallen apart and he wants it to get back. Like, I just don't know. It was really confusing. They didn't touch on the order that much. Like, I really would have loved to see Sam and Lionel really form the order and, you know, get it cracking. Like, but in the end of the season, Troy did come up to them and give them the pin with the symbol of the order on it. However, I really feel like they could have touched on all of this stuff in, like, 3 episodes. Like, everything that went on in the entire season could have been 3 episodes and continued for the rest of the season with Troy figuring out the order and just wrapping up the whole situation with Muffy and the tech guy, you know. But yeah, that was a huge situation, but I really feel like that could have been wrapped up in just like 3 to 4 episodes, because there are 10 episodes. So imagine nothing happening for 10 episodes. It was really boring. Anyway, moving on to Joelle. Joelle's character, to me, has always been a side character. She is best friends with Sam, who's the main character, but they really don't develop her character much at all in any of the seasons, like, other than her basically getting played by each character and being the side, and she just gets used often, and I'm starting to feel like that's her storyline, is that people play her all the time and she has to figure out how she's going to cope with people playing her all the time. Although I think, if I'm remembering correctly, her and Reggie did kind of reconcile in the end, but like Reggie's basically Sam's sloppy seconds. Like, although I do like that they put those differences aside and let Joelle be happy, but please, can Joelle be happy for one season? Like, she's always going through something. I mean, everyone's always going through something, but Joelle just never gets any peace or peace of mind. So I think that's what bothers me with Joelle, because they write her like she's a side character. Because, I mean, Coco had more character development and storyline than Joelle did. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but we don't know anything about Joelle's family. We don't know, like, anything about Joelle. Does she have other friends outside of Sam? Like, I don't know. Where's she from? Joelle's written like a side character. Now, I also want to touch on one of the characters that was introduced in season 2, I believe, or I think maybe she has been in all the seasons. I could be wrong, but Brooke. I do not like Brooke's character at all. She's annoying. She's very invasive. And the fact that she got praised at the end of the season for standing up for Muffy or whatever was, like, really weird to me, because for one, Coco and Muffy were having a very private conversation and Muffy told Coco something out of confidence, and for some reason Brooke thought that it would be okay for her to eavesdrop and then confront Muffy about it, about a conversation that she wasn't even involved in, you know. And I do appreciate the show for bringing up the Me Too movement and how these public figures, we often praise them and we hold them up to a high standard and are sometimes clouded by that because of the connection that we may feel that people have done in the community that resonates with us, which in the show that would be Reggie. She told that to Coco out of confidence, and Brooke took it out of her way to confront Muffy about that situation. To me, I feel like Muffy should have been able to come out about that in her own time and when she was ready, and that was really unfair for Brooke to force her into telling her story, although I feel like everyone should be able to tell their story. However, there's always backlash with the victim when they do come out, and things like what happened in the show with the tech guy silencing her and not allowing her to tell her story and making it seem like, you know, oh, I was just confused, this and that, blah, blah, blah. That happens in real life. Brooke was wrong for what she did. I don't understand why they praised her for being so abrasive and aggressive with trying to tell Muffy's story. That's my take on that. What did you guys' take on that? Please tell me in the comments, because I do want to elaborate on that much more, but I do not want this video to go on for too long, so I do not want to ramble on each character because I really can't ramble on about each character. Another character that I did have a problem with, not really a problem, I'm not going to keep saying that, but Al, he was such a useless character. Now, I understand writing and introducing new characters and new plots. Al's character was introduced into the 3rd season in the very first episode as if he was a very important character. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Looks like they're getting into something. However, as the season progressed, like, he was in the last he was in a few episodes here and there, but in the last episode, then they continued on with what they started out in the first episode into the last episode. Like, why did they even introduce Al in the first place if they weren't going to touch on that anymore until the last episode? This is what I mean by everything that happened in the course of the entire season could have happened in 3 to 4 episodes, and then we could have continued on with what was going on, which I feel like they do in the first season and the second season. Now, enough negatives. I'm not going to say enough negatives. That's not the last negative thing that I have to say, because I do have a list of positives that I want to touch on, but I'm just going to touch on the negatives of each character just a little bit. The first positive character, of course, one of my favorite characters is Lionel in the show. He is a openly gay character. In the first season, he was trying to find himself. In the second season, he basically found himself and was just trying to find his place in his community. But in the 3rd season, he definitely found his place in his community, and he's starting to be more vocal and open because he is that shy character that really doesn't speak his mind, but he does write, and he's a journalist, so most of his voice comes through his pen. And he also had a little novel called Chester that was going around the school and nobody knew it was Lionel. However, people that were close to him kind of did know that it was him, especially if you were written in the story and it's like, wait, I remember this, so I think this is about me. And you're like, okay, so I talked to this person, so this must be Lionel. Sam knew it was him. Also, I think his name was like Brown Eyes or something, but that was his little alias that Lionel gave him. I loved his character in this. He stayed true to himself, and he definitely had character development from the 1st season to the 3rd season, so I love that about him. Also, the introduction of the character 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗥𝗬. 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗥𝗬 was a great character. He served his purpose as a side character, but he was also that comic relief in situations that were a bit serious. But he also did have kind of an impact on each character. Like Gabe, he was struggling with finding money. He got cut off from his family, and 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗥𝗬 was kind of a voice for him and allowing him to do what he was doing. Love that. The next character that I really enjoyed in this season was Reggie. Well, I wouldn't say I really enjoyed his character, but you know, they actually did a good job in writing his character in this season, because in the first season I would say that him and Sam were kind of equal, because Reggie was also a voice in the community and so was Sam. However, that traumatic episode happened with the police officer in season 2, if I'm not mistaken. That could have been season 1. I think that was season 1. Look, I just recently watched season 1 and season 2 with my sister. I introduced the show to her, and so I watched all of those in one go, so things might be getting a bit confused for me, but I do believe that happened in season 1 and they kept it going to season 2. So that traumatic episode happened with him, and I love how this app that he was getting involved with did help him out and help him out of that funk that he was in, because he would not leave his room. And I was like, he really just like hopped out of bed and said he was late to meet Joelle, but did not brush his teeth, didn't shower, nothing. And then they proceed to doing it in the next scene. That was so nasty. I was like, yikes. But yeah, Reggie was going through a lot. I like that he came out of his funk. So that was a good bit of character development for me that I cannot complain about. Overall, Reggie's character gets a head nod from me. The next character that I want to touch on in my positives is Coco, because Coco is just Coco. Like, Coco's just Coco. She's going to do her. She's always been like her storyline has never really connected with all of the characters in the show, like how Sam, Gabe, Reggie, Joelle, all of them, like how their characters kind of intertwine. Coco has always been on the outskirts, and they just kind of touch on her life and her story. I loved it. I loved Coco's storyline. We got to see her mom for the first time, who she doesn't really get along with. I wouldn't say that she doesn't get along with her mom though. She just is embarrassed by her. Also, she, of course, works herself very hard. In season 2, she did end up getting pregnant by Troy, ended up having an abortion. In the clinic, she went through like the motions of actually seeing her future if she would have had this child. And that took a toll on her. So in this season, she kept seeing her future child. And I guess she was working herself really hard so that she would make her proud, or that she can build this future for her child that she wanted, that she saw in her flashback. Coco's character was amazing. That's all I have to say about it. If you want to elaborate on Coco a little more in the comments, go ahead, but that's all I got to say about Coco. And the last character I'm going to touch on is Troy. Look, Troy is my favorite character. I'm going to be honest. Troy is my favorite character because his development from season 1 to season 3 was amazing. Like, season 1, he was kind of that F-boy type, and it was like, no, like, he's not it. But season 2, him and his father, you know, always did have this clash, but then something happened after he broke that glass that made his character start to go into this morph, this like change. He definitely has become more of a voice in doing what he loves, and he's found his voice actually through comedy. So in season 3, he starts writing for Prestige. Is that the, no, that's not Pastiche. He started writing for Pastiche. I said Prestige. Like, what? He started writing for Prestige, which is the predominantly white male house on campus. And turns out that Kurt was kind of silencing him in his jokes and made him seem like this Uncle Tom type character in his writing, though, with his name on it. So he had a problem with that. So he tried to stand up and kind of form a... What is the name of that? Anyway, I can't think of the name. He basically tried to formed an alliance with the other writers that they felt like Kurt was silencing them, and they tried to do like this walkout in the middle of a meeting. Did not work. Everyone sat down because Kurt used his privilege and his power to basically manipulate everybody into staying. However, Troy did end up leaving, and so did the girl Abigail, who was the only girl in the Pastiche. Anyway, they ended up leaving together. They talked about it. They wanted to start their own magazine with their own voices, which they did use their magazine to write about the Me Too situation that was going on with Muffy and Tech Guy. I loved that happened. I loved that Troy used his voice for something like that. And that's all the positives that I have. I'm pretty sure I can elaborate on other things, but my feelings overall on this season is meh. Like, okay. This doesn't make me excited for future seasons because it's like this season was really lacking, and they kept having that little running joke like it feels like a third season of a Netflix show, but I really have never watched a third season of a Netflix show, so that joke also again did not resonate with me. Like, I don't remember the last time I've seen a third season of a Netflix show because they always get canceled after the second, which was a surprise to me that Dear White People actually got renewed for a third season because this happens often with Netflix shows. However, with the way that season 3 is looking, I really don't think that they're gonna get renewed for season 4 because to my knowledge, Netflix is pretty much in debt. And you know, I think that they're on a chopping block. Like, a lot of services are starting their own streaming services, and so I think that they're being really picky on what they want to keep and what they don't. 13 Reasons Why just got renewed for a third season, I think. I don't watch 13 Reasons Why, so I don't know if the second season was good or whatever. I definitely think that they're going to keep going with 13 Reasons Why because it is a predominantly white show and it touches on high school and the audience is much younger. And I do see 13 Reasons Why down my timeline a lot. However, I did not see anything about Dear White People, so I brought it upon myself to create a video on my thoughts of the season to see if anyone else watched it because I don't see anything about it, so this is basically a call out to see who else watched it. I gave it a chance in the first episode of season 3 and it did not go on an incline from there. So season 4, I don't know if they're going to continue doing this show, which will really be a disappointment to me and the cast members because it's never a good feeling for your show not to get continued. However, I feel like the writing should have been much stronger. It definitely felt lazy this season. And that's my thoughts on season 3 altogether. Like, I really don't want to go on for too long. Like, I've been recording for 25 minutes now. Let me know what you guys think of season 3 and if you guys enjoyed it or if you guys did not, like I did. Like, I'm not even teetering. Overall, I think this season was garbage. That's my thoughts on it. Make sure you like this video, give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also make sure you hit that notification bell so that you stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.